You're listening to the Third Watch News Update. Part 2 of the interview with Hagman and Hagman and occult crime researcher and investigator after this.
That sophisticated PR campaign was really, I think, the lever that was put at the fulcrum and really shifted the case and to get them released.
Interesting.
Was the potency of the relationship.
Interesting. And I think it's important to really understand that. And this is what we're seeing today, too. A huge PR campaign, and the public opinion is being managed. We, as citizens, if we allow ourselves, we're being programmed, we're being told what to think, how to think, and programs like this hopefully will break you of that spell. Well, we got about 3 minutes left of your time here. This time went so quickly, and you are a talented writer, I'm going to say that, a great investigator and researcher. You got the floor. Next 3 minutes. Anything you want. It's open for discussion.
Well, I just would just caution your listeners to be careful. I do believe that there are a serial killer or killers preying on young men. Just because you're a younger man doesn't mean you can't be drugged. I mean, women are very aware of the drugging problem or the roofie problem, but men can be drugged. There was actually an abduction that almost took place in Pittsburgh of a man who got away. It was like an Uber driver or something like that. So it is dangerous out there late at night. And some people have lost their lives because they let their guard down. So, and I'm following these cases a lot. And if people want to kind of see some of the researchers, they can check out a Twitter or Facebook page called Smiley Face Killers America, and kind of see that this pattern is happening over and over again. So I just want to get that warning out to your listeners and their families and friends.
And I do believe, and I think you make the case for this in your work, but I believe this to be true. I think we're seeing a rise in the satanic killings that are taking place. I think that there's obviously thrill killings, there's spree killings for thrill, but the satanic component here that you write about, the Aleister Crowley backdrop, I believe it's becoming more and more pervasive in today's criminal world. I really do. And
well, it's an excellent point, because they had those satanic killings of the MS-13 guys down in Texas, and I do believe what's happening that Dakota James is associated with has a satanic component to it.
Wow. Okay.
I can't disclose it in totality, but I'm aware that I believe in my conclusions of all my research that something like that is happening.
Incredible. Wow. Yeah, I'm not going to, we'll leave it. I know how this can go.
Sorry. I mean, it's just that I think that there are people that are in communication with each other associated with these cases. They're not happening individually. I think that there's something under the surface, sub rosa, that's happening.
Well stated. William Ramsey, thank you so much for your gift of time. Really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure when you come on. Your works are second to none in my view. Fantastic. All three, fantastic. Your multimedia presentation, thank you. Thank you for coming on, and please keep us informed as to your findings, if you don't mind.
Will do. Thank you very much, Doug. I really appreciate it.
Guest, before you get back to Mr. Ramsey, MinutemanStove.com. If you haven't gone there, go to MinutemanStove.com and get yourself a rocket stove. You're going to need it. I'm going to tell you, you're going to need it when the lights go out and you don't have anything to cook with. That's right, the kitchen stove is off or not working, not functional, or you don't have any more propane in the barbecue or whatever. The best device out there for cooking, whether it's camping or for emergencies, is the Minuteman rocket stove. And there are other rocket stoves out there, but Minuteman makes the best. MinutemanStove.com, that's the place to go. It's a 50 caliber ammo can. It focuses the heat where it needs to go. The outside, meanwhile, stays at a cool 200 degrees. You can pick it up with your hands and not worry about getting burnt. You'll notice when you use the proper wood, it creates virtually no smoke, and thereby alleviating any health concerns you might have, or perhaps you don't want to give away your location to others. It's self-contained, seals airtight for travel and storage. It is the only self-contained rocket stove on the market. It's a great product. We use it here at the Hagman and Hagman Studios. That's MinutemanStove.com, MinutemanStove.com. Mr. Ramsey, let's get back to it. Where to? Direct us. Tell us what you want to talk about.
Well, I mean, I think that if you look at the West Memphis 3 documentaries, they're very biased. They're actually, I would say, call the term Hollywoodized. So people who saw those documentaries believe that they saw our case. I think that there was an agenda behind those 3 West Memphis 3 films. They were called Paradise Lost. And I actually think that other documentaries that have come out more recently are also biased in the sense that I think that Making a Murderer did not bring into question some of Stephen Avery's predilections or the family's, unfortunate other kind of darker stuff that they were involved in. So I do think that just because it's in the documentary, people need to just make sure that they see all the facts, because sometimes these documentaries don't have all the facts.
Man, you got that right. We see that with the JonBenet Ramsey documentaries. We see it with the O.J. Simpson documentaries. It seems like that this plethora of the commercialization of murder. And in the West Memphis 3 case, and by the way, I did watch, prior to your initial appearance, I did watch a couple of documentaries in anticipation of that, and it's wow, what they do with respect to presenting the facts. You talk about bias. My goodness, it is indeed biased. You're right. Wow.
They left out tons of stuff in those early documentaries. I mean, there's tons of other facts and information that talk about his mental history or anything like that. I mean, that's a key point. That was actually when they were trying to argue to not have him go to the death penalty. That was what came out. They call it Exhibit 500 in the case because there's 500 pages of information that the documentaries never covered.
Mr. Ramsey, I want to ask you a question. My dad just mentioned the JonBenet Ramsey case. And, with these child abductions, sometimes we see cases that are much more high profile than other cases. But is there a reason? I mean, we have, how many kids go missing from our country every day? And sometimes the news media will focus on, one of these cases much more so than others for months on end. Do you think that there's a hidden agenda behind that? Why isn't the issue of missing children why isn't it covered more widespread, and why are certain cases given all the attention in the world, and while the majority are left by the wayside?
That's a great question. I think that some of the cases of the child abduction that people see or that get Hollywoodized are there because there's some kind of conflict, or it's kind of an ideal family where something went wrong, whereas, the run-of-the-mill child abductions don't have that same kind of capacity to be shaped by Hollywood. So I would say that's one of the reasons why you see JonBenet, this kind of pretty young woman or girl or whatever, instead of somebody from another family, from a middle class or lower class family.
Well, let me ask you this, just to follow up to that. Do you believe that the media or people predetermine which of these cases, or do you think it's, as you were saying, it's based on the circumstances around the family and how they have?
Absolutely. I absolutely think they're predetermined. If the people the producers who are making decisions, if the case doesn't fit their bias or their agenda, I think that they'll downplay it or ignore it. Whereas if it's a case that fits in something that they want to talk, that is part of their political agenda, they'll latch onto it like a dog to a bone. So I definitely think they're predetermined. And I think not only are that, they're also, some are, given more credence or credibility, even if the facts aren't there. So to just fit that agenda shape.
And we see that in the world of politics. You get one of the most recent examples was a mosque. There was a shooting in a mosque, and that got a lot of attention until the media found out that it was a Muslim Moroccan student.
Was it, or was it? Wait a minute, I'm still confused.
And if it doesn't fit their narrative, the thing just disappears. And if it's something they can push to continue their narrative and their agenda, they will, go crazy with it to the point of nausea. And that's sad that, you have the politicization and the Hollywood culture coming in to determine which cases are important and which aren't.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's unfortunate. I remember the story of there was a young gay kid. I think he was from Colorado, and something really bad happened to him. And then somebody went back, and that this was like a sign of how all homosexuals are, there's homophobia. But then they heard about the guy's real story, and he was a meth dealer, and the whole killing was done over a drug deal, which they conveniently left out. You remember that story? What was his name? Matthew
Shepard? No,
Matthew
Shepard.
Shepard, yes. I think Shepard.
Yeah, oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, yes.
And somebody wrote a book about it. He was actually also a homosexual, but he said that, it wasn't the story that the media shaped it to be.
Right. And exactly. And there's the media management. My goodness. And in the case of, bringing it back to the case of the pedophilia with respect to, and the satanic ritual abuse as the vehicle for the crimes against the children involved in the Pedogate/Pizzagate scandal. It's amazing. And before the break, you had mentioned too about the attacks that you got with your work on the West Memphis 3. But we're seeing across the board this mass censorship, which is just amazing to me with respect to the pedophilia that's going on, the satanic ritual crimes that are taking place that no one wants to talk about. Even Christians are boycotting, self-censoring on this topic when in fact they should be shouting this from the rooftops, in my view, to expose the deeds of darkness by the people out there, the purveyors of these crimes.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that self-censorship is probably the worst type of censorship, worse than the government censorship, because then you just let that story die, whether you're too afraid to talk about it, whether it doesn't fit into your happy-go-lucky outlook, and I think I'm disappointed by a lot of the really high level, maybe the Joel Osteens out there that don't talk about this at all. So I do think that, the prevailing political parties or political guys who are in the media, they definitely don't want to talk about, satanic ritual abuse, pedophilia, or anything like that. And I think that is really unfortunate because it is happening. And I think that the whole pedogate story is just an incredibly important story because it involved so many powerful people, and they're all kind of interwoven and connected. And those people refuse to shine a light on. So I think that is a real disservice to the country and to the people who are being abused. I'm sure there's people in that whole network who are being abused, but they never are able to come forward because nobody's going to tell their story,
That's right.
And,
yeah. And if we can kind of switch gears here, and you were just explaining that, it brought something to mind with these new this Vault 7, the CIA cyber spying and cyber warfare that's been going on. That we've seen stories about. We've known that they can remotely turn your phone on and listen to you through your TVs and your smart thermostats and any other device that's connected to the internet. Kind of a left field question here, Mr. Ramsey. How much of these tools do you think that these people who are involved in this satanic stuff, do you think that they have the abilities or this technology is shared with people for their to be able to pull off some of the things that they do and get around investigations and things like that? Or do you think that this is more an intelligence tool used by people inside intelligence services for the purposes, whether illegal or illegal wiretapping?
Well, that's an excellent question, and it's a subject of great concern because if political people are using these tools for political ends, as if Trump, who's more than likely telling the truth about himself being bugged by the Obama administration, then we're in a new level of depth, really, about how our political system really functions. If people can use this stuff politically, I think that it's a great concern. And I do think that these systems are, I think that Trump is probably telling the truth, and Bannon is saying the same thing on his Facebook page even today, that he has all the information. He just can't disclose it because he would put people at risk. So then that means that nobody's safe. If they can bug a presidential candidate and get away with it,
Oh, yeah.
I think that, I mean, we're past 1984. We're in like some really crazy dystopia.
You're exactly right. And the fact that no one is safe, boy, that is true. If people really understood what's taking place, and you're right, it's and I'm sure you've come across this. People in your investigations, people come to you and they can't disclose certain things, or you can't disclose what they've told you, or you can't. I mean, there's a lot of, I don't want to say the word, I'll just say intrigue that takes place, and people don't quite understand. I don't think people really understand how serious this is. And when somebody says, look, I can't tell you, I can't reveal the sources. I mean, people don't, sometimes people discount the information if you don't name the source. Kind of like, hey, no pictures, it didn't happen. Come on, man.
I mean, I think that, you have to establish the credibility of the person, whether it's believable, I guess. But I get stuff. I'm sure you do too. People send you information on subjects you've talked about. I get people hear me talking about the West Memphis 3, send me great information, things that I missed or something like that. So I definitely have sources that I would never divulge, but they're legit. I mean, I think that it'll be interesting to see how this, at least in the example of Trump being bugged, how that plays out over time, and whether somebody leaks something to WikiLeaks or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I think, like I said in a recent interview, I think we're really living in kind of a spy novel. All the citizens of the country, really, because you're being spied on. I mean, imagine that everything you're entering a state where everything you've ever done online, all of your financial transactions, possibly things that you've said in your own house, if they're recording your TV, can be compiled and put in a dossier. So every 300 million Americans will have an accessible dossier that God knows, what people can do. It's way beyond, I mean, I remember the FBI files, how those were distributed through the Clinton administration and how big of a hubbub that was. Imagine a file that's broader than an FBI file on you, your kids, your future. I mean, it's incredible that people who aren't necessarily responsible with that information, but if they get access to it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very dangerous scenario. And we know, I saw a clip of Karl Rove today saying that, they've never spied on an American citizen, even though we know just in a number of cases that came right from the White House that they have spied on American citizens. I guess you could say legally, with warrants, with subpoenas, with issues coming from the Justice Department, but it's all the ability to illegally and spy on American citizens and gather their information. And I think that happens a lot more. I mean, what do you think these people at the NSA do? Edward Snowden, back in 2013, talked about how he could wiretap anybody he wanted to from his desk, from, I think he said, you to, anybody he knows, to the President of the United States. And that was years ago. And all this, information is coming out to verify that what he said and what many other researchers have talked about is true, even to the extent that they can use technology to hack into cars, to remote control them, to be used for purposes of assassinations. It is very concerning. What was
Michael
that?
Hastings.
Yeah.
It brings up Hastings, yeah.
What do you think
The death
about
of Michael Hastings?
I mean,
Murder.
Yeah, absolutely.
No,
Absolutely. Go ahead.
the engine block got removed from the car prior to it coming to rest on the palm tree. I drive by that spot all the time, Melrose and Highland, and there's just no way. The engine block came out of the car, and the people who lived nearby said their house shook. It sounded like a bomb. No car accident has the force to really, to sound like a bomb, really. And there was fire there. It was an incredible event. And I think that he was really rattling kind of people at the top stage, people in the military and intelligence community, not, very dangerous people with a lot of dangerous skills. So for me, looking at the Hastings thing, murder.
Absolutely. And we're talking with William Ramsey. He's the author of just fantastic works: Abomination, Devil Worship, and Deception in the West Memphis Three Murders, Children of the Beast, Aleister Crowley's Shadow over Humanity, and Prophet of Evil, Aleister Crowley, 9/11, and the New World Order. I don't want to do this to you necessarily. What's your favorite work out of those three?
Well, that's a good question. I think that I really think that Abomination was really the most relevant in the sense that, I'm writing a history about Crowley or people he's influenced, but I think that the whole West Memphis 3 case really was an insight not only into a criminal case, but how information can be shaped, used to manipulate people, and how kind of the instinct for people to really follow the, like Joe said, the celebrity culture is to follow this kind of styly person like Johnny Depp. And so for me, Abomination was really a very timely, modern book that, for me, showed that also that the occult really does influence the guns, and people are influenced. One of the things that I found out while I was studying that book was that Damien Echols is a member, or was, around early 90s, of the OTO, Crowley's Secret Society. And I think that book, even though there's no overt proofs of that, but I do believe that the release of the West Memphis 3 is tied to secret societies and secret agreements. And so for me, Abomination is, yeah.
Okay. And
that was, so there are tattoos. There are very telling tattoos about Damien Echols that are tied to other satanic cults, particularly the back tattoo that he has. You can look it up online. That is the 7-tiered black sun tattoo. And I couldn't publish it in my book because of copyright issues. They were always threatening to sue me. I can send you some of the emails that, they were going to sue me for.
That's an interesting club that we're in. Okay. Yeah. I'll just leave it at that. Wow. Okay.
And I think that's why a lot of other people didn't investigate it, because they got intimidated, And for a while, when my book first came out, it was on the Supreme Court of Arkansas's website. It just sat there for a year. Read this book. So somebody at the Supreme Court or the website thought it was book enough to be important to put on their site.
Okay. About